Welcome back to another edition of Show Me the Nuggets. Eduardo Trinidad here from the team at Digital Triggers. Today, we have a quick-fire follow-up to last week's interview with social media growth and marketing expert Michael Roddy. Michael is one of the best in the business, and in this bite-sized episode, he will be sharing with us the biggest mistakes to avoid in Instagram marketing. Let's dive in.
What do you think are kind of the biggest no-nos besides, or the biggest issues that you see when other people have tried Instagram, right, and it hasn't worked so well? They come to you and they're like, Roddy, I've done this, tried this, right? They're a little jaded.
Right.
You mentioned content's off is a big one, right? Like they're not really talking to their avatar. What do you think are the other big things that you see the most often?
Even going back, right, people, they'll work with other agencies or they'll work with other people, and they don't really understand. Most of these people, right, like they don't understand Instagram. The reason why they're hiring people is because they don't know how to do it, and it's not worth their time. Like my avatar is typically entrepreneurs that are making like 7 to 8 figures a year, right?
Yep.
So they're not running their own Instagram pages. They also don't know it, and they don't have time to learn because they're running massive businesses. So when they come to me, it's either they're just starting out and they need help, or they've worked with somebody who's really hurt their page. So a big no-no is like when you're working with someone and they're pitching you on like, here's 100K followers for this amount of money. If it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. And I would never do giveaways, because giveaways it's only good for vanity. And the fall off on giveaways is like after you get an exponential number of followers, 60 to 70% of those people are going to fall off.
Yep.
And then you got a page of people who are just trying to win an iPhone or $1,000. So not only is your engagement going down or non-existent because these people don't care about following you, but they're also going to fall off. So now you're stuck in this roller coaster, this thing of just constantly having to buy those giveaway followers because the fall off just looks so bad on your page. And then with software tools, you're also getting in trouble because Instagram sees that you're doing inauthentic actions, and then your reach and your hashtag impressions and your home impressions, your visibility to your audience is just non-existent because they see that what you're doing. So they're going to pull back all your reach. So if people are looking to look for and hire and work with people like that, make sure that you always ask questions on what's the traffic source, right? Like, how are you guys growing my page? Because not enough people ask that question.
Yep.
So they get that a dopamine hit, and they get that dopamine hit of some quick growth, and they're like, oh, this is awesome. But then they start seeing the fall off and the inauthentic audiences. So I think people need to be more aware of where the traffic is coming from, when they're, kind of going into this space. And then as far as practices go, people are trying to post photos of their cars, flexes and stuff like that. And that's okay if you're using a lot of copy in a story behind it, right? A lot of people post a photo and it's new cars, who dis, all that stuff, right? People want value. So the thing I see a lot of people do too is oh, I don't want to share too much value because I feel like then they're not going to want to buy my stuff. And I'm like, you can never share too much value on your social media channel, any channel at all. The more value that you give people, the more results and the more qualified conversations you're going to have, and the more growth you're going to have organically, because again, people are thinking what's in it for me? Why should I follow this guy? Sure. No one's going to be able to go and solve all their problems with the content that you're giving them on your Instagram, but it's about giving them some result to the point where they're like, dang, this guy's really done giving me a lot of information. I think the next best thing for me to do is to work with this guy, right? So I think a lot of people get scared about giving too much value. In my opinion, I always tell them no, give them all the value, give them the most you can possibly do, because people see that, they appreciate it, and it's going to help you build something that's scalable, right? You're always going to be known as the guy who over delivers, right? You're Joe over deliver Troyer, right? So you gotta just you gotta be true to that. And you got to be authentic. And I think that's another thing too, is people try to portray themselves as someone they're not on Instagram, and people catch that quick.
Yeah.
So whether it's today or tomorrow in the future, people will find out if you're being a phony, right? So, talk more about your journey, talk about things that resonate with people who are inspired by you. Don't be scared to talk about failures. Talk more about things that everyone feels, because at the end of the day, a lot of people even DM me and they're like, "Oh, dude, like that's so cool that you're here. Like that's awesome." And I'm just like, "Dude, I was a bartender. You could do this too. If I can do this, like you can do this." So let people know. Be authentic and let people know where you came from, and just keep being authentic, because that's the best way to grow a page too. Don't try to be someone you're not.
That's awesome, man. If somebody's in kind of an obscure niche, you recommend they kind of go up a niche or two, right? So if they're doing their competitor research and the niche is just kind of small, right? And they're like, man, like my competition isn't really doing anything, right? Like I don't really have much to model. What would you recommend? Do they go up kind of a level or two, or in a higher kind of niche?
Yeah.
Or what's worked for you?
So what I always like tell people, so like I work with primarily like two main different niches, and well, actually I guess three. So it's either entrepreneurs, that are like coaches, consultants, service providers, thought leaders, and then I got personal development coaches. That's actually a pretty big niche right now, right? And then I got a couple of fitness clients. So I wouldn't go and try to stick to, like, when you're a nutrition coach, right? Like people are like plant-based nutrition coach, like vegans, right? Like I can't help you grow just a vegan audience. But what I can do is I can help you in the fitness space and in the nutritional space. Like you don't need to essentially just go super niche. You want to stick to a niche, but don't go too niche, right? So like it's either fitness, business, personal development, stuff like that. Like those are the niches. You don't want to go sub niche, because then it's hard to grow. It's easier to bring in a bunch of people that are into fitness or into nutrition into your page, and nurture them with content about your specific expertise, because now you're nurturing them. Maybe they thought a little bit, maybe they were a little biased towards being a vegan or your specific offer, or being a digital marketer. But if you give them enough value and education, you can easily turn that around. And now you have a qualified lead that's talking to you in your DMs, letting you know, hey man, I wasn't into this before, but now I'm really interested. So I wouldn't go super niche. I would just make sure that you stick to like the top niches, right? Like if you want to go into like business, personal development, being a coach, right? Or, a coach in the fitness space, just stick to like those niches. Don't go hyper niche. You want to gather people to your page. And when you do, that's when you can talk about like the specific things that you're an expert in within fitness, within business, or within, being an athlete or something.
Yeah, man. Makes perfect sense.